Hey guys, welcome back to Film Feature 43. Today, I'm back on the Wonka train with you guys to make another stop on the way to Willy's Wonka Land to kind of give one more theory about why Violet was treated so harshly. I'm representing Team Violet with my blue because, as we know from my previous videos, take a look up in the playlist if you haven't seen them, that Wonka put the entire chocolate factory tour together to get an apprentice and take out Violet Beauregarde in the process because she was the rightful pick. If you're liking this Willy Wonka content, go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to see another video on Willy Wonka, let me know down in the comments what kind of a question that you have that I can look into. If you are liking it, I do have a little bit of good news. I have one more Wonka video that I have already planned. It's a tier list of fictional characters, like kid characters from Chronicles of Narnia and Alice in Wonderland and things like that. And I took them and kind of how they act in their own movie, put them in a tier list of S to F based on what I think they would do well and poorly at in regards to winning Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. So if you want to see the next stop in my Wonkaville tour, go ahead and, like I said, subscribe. Let me know what other films you want me to theorize about. I have fun doing this for you guys. This theory actually comes from my last video where down in the comments, a lot of people asked why I thought that Violet was turned into a blueberry and why she was kind of treated differently from the other kids. So in my last video, I did mention that she was tricked by her own vices where only her and Mike Teavee were tricked. And on top of that, she was the only kid who was actually duped into her demise. So we're going to break that down starting now. So you might be saying,
She's a gum chewer. She was tricked into chewing gum because that's what she does. She was turned into a blueberry because her name is Violet. So there's really nothing to dig into here. It's just how it happened in the movie.
and to that I say, if that's true, why was she the only character that was tricked to begin with? Mike and Augustus and Veruca and Charlie all knew the consequences of their actions. Violet, on the other hand, did not. The only thing Wonka says about this gum is,
This little piece of gum is a 3-course dinner.
Bull. No, roast beef, but I haven't got it quite right yet.
but before saying it's not quite right, he describes it as
It's the most amazing, fabulous, sensational gum in the whole world.
So, saying it's not quite right, to me means, oh, the flavor's a little off, or something like that. It doesn't mean, hey, you're going to turn into a 4-foot-tall blueberry. So, even though she didn't listen to Wonka, she didn't listen to the degree that the other children didn't listen, because she didn't know the outcomes that the other children knew about their traps. But why the secrecy, realistically? Why was her trap shrouded in so much mystery when the rest of the kids were out in the open? Is it because she was smarter than the other kids? I think that's a possibility, but I also think that Wonka needed a 4-foot-tall blueberry for profit reasons. Let me explain. I think that in tricking Violet, Wonka gained himself a cash cow. And by cow, I mean blueberry. And by cash, I mean cash. He essentially now has a golden goose. Even though he already owns like 30 of those. So I'll stick to the cow metaphor. He has a cash cow. And what do you do with a cow? You milk it. I think Wonka was sick of Oompa Loompas turning into blueberries. I think that he saw a resilient girl in Violet who was mentally and physically smart, and she had a sleazy father who Wonka would be able to grease his palms a little bit and get him to agree to selling his daughter to Wonka. I think Wonka would be able to use Violet over and over and over again to keep juicing her and tweaking the recipe of the gum a little bit and use her again and again and again until eventually the gum is correct. But each time he juices her, he can sell the juice for profit and just keep doing it over and over again and not risk the life of his Oompa Loompas. Maybe this theory isn't as far-fetched as it seems. In another version of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, in the Wonkaverse, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory musical, as Violet is inflating, the Oompa Loompas are joking about selling her body parts and her juice to different people. And in the background, her dad is calling people to get her on magazines and to sell her specifically to farmers and things like that. So there's a version out there of Mr. Beauregard who is slimy enough to sell his daughter, and there's a version of Willy Wonka who's slimy enough to sell Violet's byproducts as well. So with an evil Wonka and a sleazy Mr. Beauregard in a different universe, what if they're just as bad in the 1971 original? Willy Wonka says that
She has to be squeezed immediately before she explodes.
but then we get a full minute of an Oompa Loompa ditty where they roll her back and forth. Inside that Oompa Loompa song, we also hear
Chewing and chewing all day long, the way that a cow does.
it's almost like Willy Wonka isn't even hiding his plan and calling Violet a cow. He's saying, yep, she's my new cash cow. She is where I'm going to make my money. Wonka also says that juicing her,
It's a fairly simple operation.
and to me that's very strange. How would he know that unless one of two things? Either he juiced enough Oompa Loompas that he needs a 4-foot tall blueberry juicer on the premises to juice how many ever Oompa Loompas he's been juicing, or he's planning on a 4-foot tall girl to need that juicer to begin with, because I don't think there's such a thing as a blueberry juicer that's able to fit a 4-foot blueberry inside of it. At least not to my knowledge. It's weird that if time is of the essence, that the Oompa Loompas keep rolling her back and forth for, like I said, a minute. It's almost like they're checking her for something. Maybe ripeness. According to NorthCarolinaBlueberries.com, how you know that a blueberry is ripe is coloration and its firmness. And we kind of see the Oompa Loompas testing both of these things. They're looking her up and down as they're rolling her, probably looking for color. It says there shouldn't be any green, gray, or red present, so they're checking her for that. Also, how you check the firmness of a blueberry is you roll it back and forth to kind of feel the firmness, and that seems to be what they're doing by rolling her back and forth each other. They're making sure that Violet's ripe enough to go to the juicer. And as she's growing, she's probably getting riper and riper, and that's when they haul her off whenever they know she's ripe enough. But you can't make a lot of profit off of a giant blueberry, right? Well, I did a little bit of math. If you say that an average blueberry is about 1 centimeter in diameter, and you take the volume of that, that's about 0.6 centimeters cubed in kind of juice space, we'll call it. So how much juice space would a 4-foot tall blueberry have? Well, the answer to that is about 949,000 cubic centimeters. So that means about 1.6 million blueberries would fit inside of the 4-foot tall Violetberry. There's about 275 blueberries in a pint, meaning that Violet would make up about 5,752 pints altogether. The average cost of a pint of blueberries, according to the USDA in the United States, is about $4.39 a pint, meaning that the juice from one Violetberry is about $25,000 in profit for Wonka. If he juiced her about once a day, that's about $9 million a year. I don't think he would juice her once a day. I think he would tweak the gum recipe a little bit, so he'd probably squeeze the Violetberry about once a week. That's still about $1.3 million in profit a year. If we continue with our cow comparison, cows are dry about 18% of the year, so that would be about 43 juicings in 43 weeks throughout the year, putting Wonka's profit about $1 million per year. It's a good bit of money, I think. But if you compare it and we say that Wonka has similar profit to that of Hershey's Chocolate Factory in the United States, that leaves Wonka with adding $1 million onto an annual revenue of about $8 billion. So that adds about 0.0125% onto his overall revenue. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't believe that 0.0125% is enough to commit federal crimes, including child endangerment and kidnapping and bribery and everything that Wonka's going through and able to keep Violet in his factory. But maybe almost doubling that profit would kind of push Wonka over the edge. We know he's not completely all there with some of his things that he says and things that he does. So adding almost $6 billion in profit may push Wonka over the edge. What I really think his goal isn't to get a cash cow, as I've been saying, but it's to get a guinea pig. I think Wonka's main goal is to get that 3-course meal gum out into the public, but he can't have people blown up into blueberries and exploding down in the town square every time they pop a piece of gum in their mouth. It'd be like if you chewed juicy fruit and your tongue fell out. They're not going to sell a lot of gum that way. So he needs to perfect this gum to the point where people aren't going to turn into blueberries. But he can't keep risking losing Oompa Loompas every time he needs to test it.
Oh, well, I'll get it right in the end.
So he needs a mentally and physically smart girl to be able to run tests on every time he gets a new stick of gum. Sure, he's juicing her, and he's probably using that juice in some of his recipes, but that's small potatoes compared to the R&D that's going on in the background to make the gum perfect. And this girl has to have kind of a sleazy enough dad to be able to get a little bit of a payment by Wonka for him to keep the girl on the premises. Luckily enough for Wonka, Mr. Beauregard is both a car salesman and a politician, two professions that aren't really known to have the greatest character, and two professions that seem to be able to be persuaded by money in some way. So Wonka is able to pay him to keep Violet on the premises and keep pumping the gum into her mouth. Every time it doesn't work, squeezing her, letting her be there for a little bit until he can get the research and development done, and throwing another piece of gum in, seeing if it works. The end goal is to get that 3-course meal gum onto the street by any means necessary. I think for Wonka it seems like a win-win. He gets the testing, he gets the juice, he gets everything that he wants just by pushing a little bit of money around. And he's covered for flippery and juicing and explosions and buying and selling of a minor, all in the contract that he made them sign in the beginning of the tour.
What are you talking about?
At least that's what I think happened. That's my theory. It's all about the research and development, not so much about the blueberries. Like I said before, thanks to the people who commented in the last video, kind of giving me a little bit of an idea to look into this. I made it for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.